What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So the other day, What If Season 3 aired its finale. Quick point of reference before I start this review: this will be a spoiler-filled review. A show like this, it's really hard for me to kind of keep spoilers out of it, especially with my big problem that I have with this show. It would be like outright impossible. So just be warned, there will be full spoilers in this video. But yeah, before we get started here, the first season of What If I actually thought was really good. It started out a little kind of generic in my opinion, where you had like, what if you had Captain America the First Avenger, but instead of Steve, you had Peggy? Or what if we played out Guardians of the Galaxy, but instead of Chris Pratt Star-Lord, we got T'Challa? Like, it was just it started out kind of generic and just kind of like, what if character A was character B? But then as it kept going, the more I enjoyed it. And then we got to the finale, like after we got the Great Zombies episode. There were a couple others I really liked as well. We get to the finale and it kind of brings together like basically the multiversal Avengers, which was pretty cool. And then with season 2, I honestly thought as a whole the season was even better than the first one. I loved it. I thought it really lived up even more so to the premise of what if, and just really going bonkers. Like, what if, you know, Happy Hogan had to protect Avengers Tower during the holidays? Or they introduced a new character, Kahori, that I'm going to talk about in this review. And they're like, what if Kahori reshapes the world as we know it? And, you know, the finale, even though I thought the finale got a little too crazy, like they literally just made Captain Carter way too OP. And in my opinion, they should have gone, if you wanted to tie something together, use a different set of characters, because that's kind of what this show is. It's what if. It's not, stop trying to make everything tie together like you do the MCU. But now that we're going to get into my thoughts on season 3, I gotta say, as somebody that's really been a big defender of this show, despite maybe a couple missteps, wasn't a big fan of how they ended this one. It's not to say this season is a bad season. It's not to say that I didn't, for the most part, find entertainment value in most, if not all of these. There was one in particular, it was called, I think, What If, essentially like, what if the emergence that was supposed to happen in the Eternals? I know like 12 people that have seen this movie probably across the planet, but you know, in that movie, the whole thing about the Celestial giving birth and then it's going to destroy the Earth and all that. This episode, I think it was episode 5, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is basically what if the Eternals failed and that happened, and then you have Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, kind of like going toe-to-toe with Mysterio, who's kind of more or less taken over this world. So it was a really fun concept. Again, one of those that I just think really works well in this what if formula. But yeah, for every one of those, we got, what if Howard the Duck and Darcy got married and had a kid, and everybody in the galaxy wanted said kid for reasons that they don't really ever explain. Yeah, I mean, I can see some people really liking that episode, and it's kind of a superficially fun episode. It's probably the most like Rick and Morty of anything I've ever seen Marvel do in animation. Just very much over the top, wacky, absurd. And I get it's what if. I get we can play around with this, but it does kind of come back to bite in the final episode, which I'm going to get to here in a second. But, you know, it's just, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's just pretty cliche in my opinion, at least. So, you know, you have some that I think really work, others like that I don't think work, and then you got some that I'm kind of more mixed on. A good example of that would be the Red Guardian and the Winter Soldier team-up show, or team-up episode, I should say. I just didn't get that invested in that episode. I mean, I thought it was kind of fun. I liked certain elements of it, but for me, a big problem was that they made like, you think Red Guardian is goofy in Black Widow? They make my brother 1,000 times more goofy in this episode. Like, I swear, every line of dialogue was a freaking joke, and it was so annoying. Like, a lot of people say this is one of the best episodes, and yeah, because I can't even tell you, like, what even happened in a lot of the other episodes. Like, so maybe, but like, even so, I just could not find the emotional moments to land well. I just couldn't find the camaraderie between him and Bucky to land well. There's like one joke about communism that I thought was actually kind of funny, where Bucky, he makes some joke about the Communist Manifesto, and Bucky says something to the equivalent of like, man, they've really brainwashed you. And like, the way that they deliver that line was funny. But yeah, just that episode, just every time I tried to get invested, it was just joke after joke after joke. And I'm a big Red Guardian fan. Like, I really want to see him done well. And I like the Black Widow movie, I just don't like how they did Red Guardian. I really didn't like how they did him here, so hopefully the Thunderbolts is going to be the one that finally gives this man some justice. But yeah, going on, there's like a mech episode where it's like, what if the Hulk fought the Mech Avengers? Which, yeah, is kind of cool, but it ultimately, in my opinion, didn't really go anywhere. At least not as much as I thought it should have gone. There's one where it's like Agatha and Kingo that come together, and it's basically Agatha trying to take the power of the Eternals, but she ends up getting help from Kingo. Honestly, I don't even remember that episode all that much. And I actually watched that one twice. I fell asleep through it the first time, watched it the second time, stayed awake for it. Still probably couldn't tell you even half of what that episode is about. And I think that brings me to my big problem with this show. It's forgettable. One, I don't think it's anywhere near as memorable. And it's not like I remember every episode of season 2 or even season 1, but I do remember a lot more episodes and a lot more episodes of those prior seasons that I enjoyed a lot more than I did in season 3. So all that to say, I do think that this is absolutely a downgrade. It just really didn't come together well at all for me. I will say one thing that I didn't like about the finale, and this was probably my biggest issue with the show, other than the fact that it's just forgettable and it kind of wastes what a lot of people really want to see out of What If. They bring everything back together. And how do they bring everything back together? Like, do we at least get the multiversal Avengers that we got in the first season? No. Do we at least just get Captain Carter and Kahori? Kind of. But one, Captain Carter had nothing to do in this episode, or this whole season until the finale. Like, she's in episode 7, but 7 and 8 are kind of basically one big episode. You'll know if you've seen the show. So yeah, and the thing is, the like central premise of the show was pretty cool. Because you see the Watcher like starting to slowly intervene throughout this series, and then by the time you get the last couple episodes, the other Watchers are like, nope, you're done, come with us. So you do get a lot of really cool elements where they play around with that, and kind of like what I really liked about Loki, where it's like, you know, free will, all that kind of like deep philosophical, even to a certain degree theological, guess you could say, think tanks. And yeah, I wanted to like those last couple episodes more, but then they introduced, like, you remember in the trailer where they have Storm wielding Mjolnir, and like at the very end, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's gonna be the coolest episode of What If. Yeah, she's in the show. She doesn't get her own episode. She shows up for like no reason whatsoever. I mean, I can at least understand Captain Carter being here, because at least with her character, it's like, okay, you know, we've kind of had her in the finale for the first 2 seasons, so if you're going to tie this all together, and I don't think they should have, but if you're going to tie it together, at least it kind of makes sense why she would be in there, kind of, you know, because she's roaming the galaxy with the Watcher. And then you got Kahori, who, again, I kind of understand. She was kind of with Captain Carter at the end of season 2. And then Storm carrying Mjolnir. Like, I thought this season originally was going to have 9 episodes. Maybe I'm tripping and I could be wrong about that, but I'm like, did they cut out the Storm wielding Mjolnir episode? Did I miss something? Apparently not. Apparently they just thought it'd be a good idea to throw her in for no reason. And it's cool, yes, but it also makes literal no sense. And going off of that, the Howard the Duck and Darcy's daughter is like aged for some reason. And yeah, we've kind of been introduced to her as an egg. And then, yeah, like, I'm not even kidding. She hatches out of an egg. It's ridiculous. But yeah, she's now like a teenager, young adult, whatever. Like, again, randomly just happens to know Captain Carter. And the thing is, this finale tries so hard, and I mean really hard, to actually sell you on some emotional beats. Like, the end of this finale, and again, this is a major spoiler, so, you know, if you somehow didn't catch this as a spoiler-filled review, I'm about to drop the big one here. Captain Carter dying. They try to make it super emotional. The only thing is, while I've never necessarily been a Captain Carter hater, I'm just not that invested in her character whatsoever. I kind of just, again, I wish if you were going to tie things together, use different characters, you know, different storylines, just really stop trying to make everything the next Endgame or the next Avengers, whatever. Like, just, it's okay to have anthology series. It's okay to just swing for the fences. Stop trying to always feel like you have to play in the MCU playground. But yeah, you know, the emotional beats for me just didn't hit at all, because I'm not invested, at least in 2 of these 4 characters. And again, I like Kahori, but, you know, it's not one of those things to where I'm like, oh, when are we going to see Kahori next? It's just, okay, I think she's fun because she's a fresh new character and they're doing something original. And the way the show ends, it's almost like they're trolling the audience. Like, they're going, oh, look at, like, he's showing these different realities, for example, and one's like Riri Williams as the Punisher, like Spider-Man with like 6 hands. I know there's like a comic term for that, I don't know it, I'm sorry guys. And then there's like Scarlet Witch, but she's like some sort of animal. So it's stuff like this that could have actually been really cool. But then what do we get instead? We get Howard the Duck and Darcy with eggs. And I think that's, or, you know, with their egg child or whatever. And I think that's really speaks to probably the biggest problem that I have with What If now, kind of as a whole. Like, I feel like to a certain degree, and again, I still really love the first 2 seasons, especially certain episodes. And there's even a few episodes again in season 3 that I really enjoyed, like that Riri Williams versus Mysterio episode. But my big problem is that you're literally just trying way too hard to connect things. And I think the stories that you did tell that were kind of separated, to me, you could have done a lot more. You really, I mean, even the mech episode, I think they could have really gone farther with. So even the ones that I thought were cool premises, I felt like they should have taken it a step farther. And so, yeah, overall, that's kind of my, I guess, overarching thoughts on What If Season 3. Again, as a whole, I'm still positive on the show. As a whole, I still think What If Season 3, especially if you really love the first 2 seasons, is worth checking out. But I do think that they've kind of squandered a lot of the potential. And a big thing is that they're not going to continue What If, apparently. Like, Season 3 is going to be the last one or whatever. So, you know, it's a little... It bums me out a little bit to say this, but it's by far the weakest of the 3 seasons. And I'm going to go with a 5 out of 10 on this one. I really, like, halfway through the show, I remember texting my friend and going, I think if they actually nail the last couple episodes, that I'll end up giving this a 6.5. But honestly, just, I think the way that they executed that finale, I'm going to go back down and give it a 5, because it's, yeah, and it doesn't bring me any pleasure to say this, especially seeing the first 2 seasons of What If that, again, I really enjoyed, and X-Men 97 that I thought might just be... I mean, and yes, I know Deadpool and Wolverine came out in 2024, but even so, X-Men 97 might still be my favorite Marvel project of almost last year, I guess, but still 2024. So yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say here, guys. Let me know in the comments down below, though. Did you love What If Season 3? Have you seen What If Season 3? Or do you not even care, and that's why you're listening to Spoiler-Filled Review? Whatever it is, guys, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video, and I will catch you all later. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you liked what you've seen here and you want to see more, please feel free to like, subscribe, share, and check out my other videos in the link in the description down below. And I will see you all later.